So anyway, like I said, on today's show, I'm going to talk about broke on broke dating. And again, I touch on this in the book, The Art of Gold Digging. I go more in depth on it, but I'm going to go into it right now. And it's going to be some very good game today. When it comes to dating and relationships, a lot of people get into liability on liability or asset and liability dating. That means somebody's bringing something to the table, somebody else is taking something away from the table. The ideal relationship to get in is an asset on asset relationship. That's a situation where two people are bringing something to the table. This is how rich people date. This is what rich people don't school the masses on, and I'm about to school you on it now. It's very important to have asset on asset relationships. And for those who don't know, an asset, like I said, is something that brings something to the table. A liability is something that takes things away from the table. See, rich people understand this concept. That's why there are arranged marriages with rich families. This has been going on since the beginning of time. Certain rich families arrange marriages. And they've been doing this forever. And they do this to create wealth for generation to generation, to make sure that their children's children will be financially stable. See, most people in layman society are in trick hole relationships, which is what our government likes. Our government likes the trick hole relationship because they don't really want nobody to come up. They don't want nobody to have that much wealth. They want all the wealth distributed in a very small percentage of hands. This is why the economy is fucked up and everybody's damn near broke right now. To a certain degree, everybody isn't broke, but this is why a lot of people are complaining that small groups of people have made a lot of money and the economy is fucked up to a certain degree. About 1% of the population controls all the wealth in this country. And the government wants it that way. They want to keep people in these broke on broke relationships. They really don't want you to come up because when you broke on broke, you can be easily controlled. And really, that's what my book is about. The Art of Gold Digging is about really not being scandalous, not getting over on anybody, but it's a book telling women how to choose correctly and date correctly. And the game is good for men too, because the game that I'm spitting today is definitely applicable to men too. But like I said, man, a lot of people get into these trick hole relationships where the woman ain't really bringing anything to the table besides sex, and the man is like the trick. He's paying for the entertainment value of sex, and after a while, after he gets tired of paying for sex, so to speak, with the wife or the significant other, he goes out looking for it elsewhere, and the woman, after she gets tired of the husband, she divorces him and gets more money out of him. So everything is like on some trick hoe shit, and nobody never really comes up in a situation like this, especially the children. All the money is split up and divided. So that family doesn't really come up. That money's just fucked over. The money goes to lawyers and judges and the courts and all that stuff. But these trick hole relationships, there's no generational wealth to follow that. You feel me? Are you guys following me on this? That's the average relationship in this country. And it gets even deeper than that. On a lower level, you have a lot of liability on liability relationships. You have a bunch of broke ass people Neither one of them are bringing anything to the table, and they're procreating, having kids, and the kid grow up without shit. And I'm saying this because the economy is turning, and right now, men and women, you have to be selective about who you're laying up with. See, back in the 90s when the economy was cool, you know, women, you can lay up in the hood and, you know, get your little government check and fuck anybody and everybody you wanted to fuck and get high, smoke weed. It was all good. And white girls, you can sit up in the trailer park, smoke crystal meth, fuck any dude with a mullet and a dump truck. Well, those days are really winding down. Nobody's getting a free ride no more. You're not going to be able to sit up and get high and lay on your ass and just pop out kids by any random dude and have everybody else foot the bill. You got to really step your game up in these times. Women. The broke on broke thing is not the business. And you notice in certain relationships, you see rich people date other rich people and they look like a mismatch. You're like, damn, why is he marrying her? Like Mariah Carey and Nick Cannon. Like, Nick Cannon is kind of young. Why is he marrying Mariah Carey? That's a smart move. That's asset on asset. And she's knocked up now. She's pregnant. So just imagine that kid is going to have money. And that kid is going to be straight. They're going to be straight generation after generation. That's a very tactical thing. That was a wealth thing. Just like Janet Jackson and Jermaine Dupri. People say that's a mismatch. Janet Jackson is now knocked up. That child is going to have generational wealth. Both of the parents have assets to bring to the table. Same thing with Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, and a plethora of other celebrities and public figures. See, you cannot be controlled by your primal drives. See, that's the problem with that hood mentality, with that broke mentality. People have sat up for a long time, got in these broke on broke relationships, and they're controlled by their primal desires, and they never really come up, creating a perpetual cycle of brokenness. That's why a lot of niggas don't really come up. You get stuck in this cycle of brokenness. You broke, the chick you're fucking is broke, your kids are broke, everybody's just gonna stay broke. That can't pop off no more. Because nobody's going to be able to foot the bill no more. So I'm trying to give y'all some game to really step it up before the shit really hits the fan. See, according to psychologists, let me get a little deeper with it on a psychological level. According to Sigmund Freud, one of the people that I've admired in literature, Sigmund Freud said that people are motivated by two forces. Everybody's motivated by two forces. That's sex and aggression. Those are the two primal forces that make us do everything we do. Now, in prehistoric times, those forces were needed in order to ensure survival. Cavemen were all about sex and aggression. They wanted to fuck and fight. They needed to have sex. They were motivated by sex in order to procreate. And they were motivated by aggression in order to protect themselves from from nature. They needed to protect themselves from the elements. They needed to protect themselves from predators. They needed to protect themselves from rival tribes. They needed to protect themselves from just many things. So again, they were motivated by sex and aggression. They were all about fighting and fucking. You ever see those old paintings of cavemen? They were walking around with spears all the time, spears and sticks, ready to fight. And niggas still have that mentality to this day. A lot of niggas, all they do is fucking fight. They still have those primal forces controlling them, See, cavemen were at the mercy of those forces. Those forces control them. And a lot of broke niggas and a lot of broke females, if you look at YouTube, you see these hood rats with a bunch of kids around them fighting. You see a bunch of niggas in the hood fighting with a bunch of kids. Because you let those forces control you. Now, smart people, as humans evolved, they learned how to control those forces. They learned how to control who they had sex with. They didn't just have to bang anything. And they didn't have to go hand to hand with everybody. They learned how to control that aggression. They learned how to control that sex drive. So they, instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to bang anything that moves, they said, okay, if I have something, if I've accumulated food and sustenance, let me have sex with somebody else who has accumulated food and sustenance so we can build from there. Modern man started thinking in those terms. Everything became more tactful. They controlled those desires that drove them. And instead of being physically aggressive, they learned how to be aggressive in a more manipulative way. Instead of fighting somebody hand to hand, they knew how to motivate armies or motivate tribes or cliques. They knew how to use deception. Deception is a sign of aggression. They knew how to be manipulative. Manipulation is a sign of aggression. There's different ways to be aggressive without being, without physically fighting. You can be passive aggressive. I hope you guys are following me on this. The point is, smart people learn how to control those basic drives that we had. You, my players out there, you can't have that caveman mentality where your sex drive and your aggression drive is controlling you to do broke shit. You don't have to be controlled by that no more. That's my whole point. Now, when men started accumulating wealth throughout history in a tactful way, again, like I said, a lot of men from wealthy families got into arranged marriages with women from wealthy families. Now, they still had jump offs. I mean, they still banged women here and there, but they didn't procreate with the jump offs, which is what a lot of dudes do today. A lot of guys now will bang the local hood rats, and not just bang them, niggas be having babies by the local hood rats, and then you wonder why your money is fucked up. I remember back in the 90s, all these NBA players were having all these illegitimate kids by all these hood rats, and it was a very bad look for the NBA. And these hood rats was just really breaking these dudes' pockets. It got so bad that they had to have like people come in and school these guys on, what to do, what not to do, where to go, who not to bang. They really had to teach the rookies how to control that shit. You can't have a whole bunch of hood rats filing lawsuits against NBA players. It was not a good look. You can't have all these liabilities coming into play fucking up your money. You gotta control your sex and your aggression drives. Don't procreate with your jump offs. Really, you shouldn't be messing with jump offs anyway, to that degree. See, when it comes to money, man, and let me get into the money thing, especially with black dudes. See, when it comes to money, smart dudes, smart brothers know how to disconnect themselves from the dumb hood shit, from the liabilities, because dumb hood shit is basically a liability. Whenever black folks come up, we always hear people in the community talking about, man, don't forget where you came from, man, you got to keep it real. We hear that all the time in the black community, but that's something that's really exclusive to the black community. White folks don't do that shit. You never hear white folks sitting up talking about telling each other, hey man, don't forget where you came from. You got to represent the trailer. Don't forget where you came from. I've never heard a white person tell another white person that, ever. Because if white folks came from some broke shit, they forget about it. They shit on it. They're like, I don't know none of them. Like, hey, Bob, don't you have a brother named Steve? No, I don't have a brother. They'll disown everybody if it's going to ensure their financial wealth. White folks will disown their mom, their dad, their brothers, sisters, everybody if they're going to be liabilities to the wealth. Black folks don't do that. Some black folks do. See, the thing is, a lot of brothers, like wealthy ball players, a lot of them who are smart, what they'll do, they'll make a lot of money. They'll get their mom up out the hood. They might get some of their real close relatives, but everybody else, they're like, okay, fuck you. They don't worry about that keep it real, don't forget where you came from shit. If they're smart. The ones that are susceptible to that keep it real peer pressure, brothers like that who come up and make a lot of money and then they start hanging around the hood and bringing hood people around them, they're the main ones who get caught up in some bullshit. Like I was talking about earlier, the NBA players. See, NBA players and NFL players are totally different. See, NBA players, NBA money is long money compared to NFL money. See, a lot of NFL players be on that keep it long and they don't have to worry about that image as much as an NBA player. See, NBA players, they make tens of millions of dollars before they play their first game. Before they step foot on a basketball court, they might make $30-40 million in endorsements. So in the NBA, they have to keep a certain image on and off the court. They're very strict about that. Whereas an NFL player, they don't get those type of endorsements that the average NBA player gets, and it's not as strict and as stringent. So a lot of NFL players have hood niggas and hood brawls around them all the time. And if you notice, a lot of NFL players get caught up in some shit. Like Mike Vick, this nigga fighting dogs. Pac-Man Jones, he's fighting motherfuckers up in strip clubs and he gets arrested every other week. Who is this fool and got shot? He shot himself at a club a few weeks ago. What's his name? Plaxico? Some shit. This fool done shot himself. All because they own some hang around the hood, keep it real shit. Hanging around liabilities. Don't forget where you came from shit. You got to cut that shit off. If you make a lot of money, especially black folks, when you make a lot of money, you have to be very picky and choosy about the people you bring around your circle. Don't let nobody try to brainwash you with that, man, don't forget where you came from, man, you got to keep it real. Because at the end of the day, man, if some shit jump off, that keep it real shit goes right out the window. They'll throw you right under the bus. You saw what Mike Vick's people did. He went to jail because those people, his homies, these cats he was doing the dog fighting with, they threw him under the bus. They didn't keep it real. They kept themselves out of jail and threw his ass under the bus. So don't let nobody try to get in your head with that, oh man, don't forget where you came from shit. That's just broke peer pressure. Smart celebrities don't go for that. Like Diana Ross. I know when I was living in Birmingham, Alabama, there was this whole thing. People in Birmingham were kind of mad at Diana Ross because she never claimed Birmingham. I think she lived in Bessemer, Alabama or some shit like that. And a lot of people down in Birmingham were like, man, Diana Ross ain't shit. She forgot where she came from. Diana Ross from Birmingham. Fuck her. She don't claim Birmingham. Like, Diana Ross don't give a fuck about no Birmingham. And she shouldn't. To be honest. Diana Ross is somewhere over in Europe fucking with billionaires. As she should. I'm not mad at her. Niggas kill me with that shit. I was in jail a long time ago. One of the many times I've been to jail, like in the early 90s. And speaking of Diana Ross, it was this dude in jail. Dude, he kind of looked like Michael Jackson. And the dude's name was Chico Ross. And they were like, that's Diana Ross's brother. He was like a crackhead. I hate putting the guy's business out there. It might have been known, common knowledge back in the day. But the dude, people in the hood knew him as a crackhead. And the dude was obviously, in and out of jail. And some of the homies knew him. Some of the people that I knew him. And they're like, yeah, that's Diana Ross's brother. That nigga is always in and out of jail. Like, yeah, Diana Ross really kind of disowned the cat. I'm like, damn. And I'm like, shit, if she don't give a fuck about her brother, she don't give a fuck about no damn Birmingham. But in a way, I don't blame her. When you get to a certain level in the game, certain people you have to cut off. If you got crackheads in your family and all this old bullshit, you got to cut them off. Because these people who are liabilities, they'll bring you down. I know that sounds cold because, see, black people, we're very familiar. We're very family oriented. We like to really hold on to our families and look out for our families. That's our vibe. That's our nature. But when it comes to the accumulation of wealth, certain people you have to charge to the game. Certain people you got to be like, you know what, I'm cool. I can't really fuck with you like that. That's why, if you notice, man, a lot of black celebrities, no matter how rich they are, they might have a relative or a cousin that's involved in some kind of hood shit, and they get caught up in some hood shit. Remember Venus and Serena Williams, very rich girls. Their sister, I think their sister got killed in like a drive-by or some shit. Or somebody down in Compton shot the sister. Some bullshit. And when it comes to dating and marriage, if you're a black man of means, in many cases, the reason why a lot of brothers don't deal with sisters, not because they dislike sisters or whatever, but a lot of sisters are very close knit to their families, and a lot of your families be on some broke shit. See, women are very close to their families regardless. Like I said earlier, a lot of black men, when they make a lot of money, they can kind of disconnect themselves from the family, except their mother. They'll get their mother out the hood. They'll be very close to their mother. But everybody else, brother can kind of charge them to the game if he's smart. That's kind of difficult for women to do. Understandably so. Not just black women, but it's women in general. Even with white women. With white women, it's very difficult for them to let their families go. So, like, if a white woman were to date a black man, so to speak, they would have to really turn their backs on their families to a certain degree. So if they make the decision to date a black dude or marry a black guy, they're going to make damn sure it's a top-notch brother. That's why white women know how to kind of choose correctly as far as that, because that decision is going to be a lifelong decision for them. You got to kind of turn your back on your family, which they really don't want to do. That's why the average fly white chick ain't going to date no dusty ass dude. No dusty ass brother, for that matter. So a lot of sisters, the reason why, again, a lot of brothers who are financially stable will kind of second guess getting in a relationship with a sister, even if the sister has her shit together, you're still going to be connected to some broke shit. Like, for example, Jennifer Hudson, man. Jennifer Hudson, very sweet young lady. And I don't think Jennifer Hudson really had the resources to kind of get her mom up out the hood. But you saw the situation that happened to Jennifer Hudson. Her mama got killed. Her brother got killed on some dumb hood shit. So a man of means trying to marry into a situation like that, it's kind of difficult. You really don't want to, you know what I'm saying? You really don't want to be involved in that. Because when you marry somebody, you know the old saying, you marry their family. And again, that's not I'm not saying anything negative about that family. That was a very unfortunate thing that happened. The thing is, man, you gotta get your mama or your close family members out of that situation if you have come up in the game. If you can. I'm gonna give another example. Like Keisha Cole. Keisha Cole, very sweet girl. She's upgraded her look. She looks great now. Body's on point. She has her money together. Now, let's say a man of means probably would not get with Keisha Cole. And I like looking at her show on BET. What's the name of her show? The Way It Was, The Way It Is, some shit like that. But her show is very interesting. I was looking at her show and she was complaining that she don't have a boyfriend. She don't have a man. And the thing is, with Keisha, she's cool, but it's that dusty, raggedy, crackhead ass family she has. That's the thing that's holding her back from getting a goddamn dude. I mean, what dude of means in his right mind is going to involve himself with that raggedy goddamn family? Keisha's family is a hot ass mess. A family full of liabilities. Again, when you marry somebody, when you date somebody, you're dating their family. And that's the thing with sisters. This is another mistake you make, and it's not about your family. Again, I can kind of understand you not wanting to disown your family or get away from your family, but you kind of have to a certain degree if you're serious about coming up in the game. Especially if you got a dusty, raggedy ass family that ain't about shit. But the thing with sisters, man, no matter how high class a sister is, no matter how much money a sister has made, a lot of sisters will still have a hood rat in their circle. You might have a hood rat cousin, you might have a hood rat sister, you might have a hood rat homegirl that you grew up with, but whenever there's a group of fly sisters, there's always a goddamn hood rat in the mix. And that hood rat be throwing y'all game off. I know when I meet sisters, I meet a chick and she's cool, the vibe is good, and she got like a hood rat homegirl, I'm kind of hands off. I'm like, I'm kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how close you are to this motherfucker. I don't want this hood rat in my circle at all. And that's how men of means think. You don't want no brokenness around your perimeter. So a lot of you ladies, y'all got to cut that broke shit out. Because sisters, especially, y'all be having these broke ass homegirls. For example, you know that show, The Real Housewives of Atlanta, on the Bravo network? Very popular show. It's about these women down in Atlanta, these well-to-do women who are married. Some of them are married to wealthy guys. One of them is married to an NBA player. No, was an NFL player. The other one was married to another ball player. Then they had the white chick on there, and they had this one old hood rat named Nene. See, on that show, a lot of the women, the women kind of act classy, but then they got the one old hood rat in the bunch. The Nene chick is an old hood rat. I've been hearing all types of crazy shit about this chick. They said that she was a stripper back in the day, and they've exposed this chick for not really having no money, fronting, flossing. Her and her husband got evicted from the crib, and her husband looks like one of her old tricks. So that kind of makes the whole bunch look kind of raggedy to a certain degree. And that's a great example. Again, y'all have these hood rats and these low budget bras in your perimeter, and that kind of puts a damper on the whole bunch. Like they said, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And the Nene chick, and I'm not questioning her character or nothing like that, but when you have people like that, when you have a hood rat in the mix, that kind of makes the whole mix look fucked up. And it's like that in the dating world. And Sisters, you got to get that shit out of your perimeter. When you deal with dudes or when you deal with people, you try to surround yourself with assets. You have to cut out all the liabilities. Men too. Men, you can't be knocking up every goddamn hood rat that you see. You got to be very selective about who you date and who you procreate with. The person that you date, even if they're not an asset at the moment, they have to be upgradable and turned into an asset. That means they have to start off with a clean slate. Like if you meet somebody and you're a person of means, you might meet a young lady, her money might not be together at that point, but at least she's not taking anything away from you. She don't have a bunch of kids by other niggas. She ain't got no dusty crackhead family that's going to be hitting you up for bail money. You dig what I'm saying? You can upgrade her and make her an asset too, if she's on the same page with you, and vice versa. Women, if you get a dude and he's really down, you can kind of upgrade him to a certain degree and put him up on some game so he can help bring some shit to the table. But whatever you do, you don't want to date no liabilities. You don't want to date anybody with baggage that's going to take shit away from your pocket. And if you're broke, don't date other broke people. That's the last thing you need to do. If you ain't got shit, don't date another person who don't have shit. I know when I had no money, and I've been very, very broke before, the last thing I would do was date a goddamn hood rat. If I ain't got no car, why am I dating you? You ain't got no car. We walking down the street like Dora the Explorer and her map. Walking like a motherfucker. Fuck that. No. Asset on asset. Always get into asset on asset relationships. Stop with the brokenness. The economy is fucked up. No more broke on broke dating. None of that James and Florida Evans shit. Y'all know the TV show Good Times? A broke ass couple struggling. They never came up. It was kind of sad to watch to a certain degree. Asset on asset. Always date somebody or look for people who can bring something to the table. The broke on broke thing is not the business. Anyway, y'all, that's been today's episode of the Mac Listens. Two people are bringing something to the table. This is how rich people date. This is what rich people don't school the masses on, and I'm about to school you on it now. It's very important to have asset on asset relationships. And for those who don't know, an asset, like I said, is something that brings something to the table. A liability is something that takes things away from the table. See, rich people understand this concept. That's why there are arranged marriages with rich families. This has been going on since the beginning of time. Certain rich families arrange marriages. And they've been doing this forever. And they do this out of money, and the economy is fucked up to a certain degree. About 1% of the population controls all the wealth in this country. And the government wants it that way. They want to keep people in these broke on broke relationships. They really don't want you to come up, because when you broke on broke, you can be easily controlled. And really, that's what my book is about. The Art of Gold Digging is about really not being scandalous, not getting over on anybody, but it's a book telling women how to choose correctly and date correctly. And the game is good for men too, because the game that I'm spitting today is definitely applicable to men too. But like I said, man, a lot of people get into these trick hole relationships where the woman ain't really bringing anything to the table besides sex, and the man is like the trick. He's paying for the entertainment value of sex, and after a while, after he gets tired of paying for sex, so to speak, with the wife or the significant other, he goes out looking for it elsewhere. And the woman, after she gets tired of the husband, she divorces him and gets more money out of him. So everything is like on some trick hoe shit. And nobody never really comes up in a situation like this, especially the children. All the money is split up and divided. So that family doesn't really come up. That money's just fucked over. The money goes to lawyers and judges and the courts and all that stuff to create wealth for generation to generation, to make sure that their children's children will be financially stable. See, most people in layman society are in trick hole relationships, which is what our government likes. Our government likes the trick hole relationship because they don't really want nobody to come up. They don't want nobody to have that much wealth. They want all the wealth distributed in a very small percentage of hands. This is why the economy is fucked up and everybody's damn near broke right now. To a certain degree, everybody isn't broke, but this is why a lot of people are complaining that small groups of people have made a lot. So anyway, like I said, on today's show, I'm going to talk about broke on broke dating. And again, I touch on this in the book, The Art of Gold Digging. I go more in depth on it, but I'm going to go into it right now. And it's going to be some very good game today. When it comes to dating and relationships, a lot of people get into liability on liability or asset and liability dating. That means somebody's bringing something to the table, somebody else is taking something away from the table. The ideal relationship to get in is an asset on asset relationship. That's a situation where